Hey guys, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and today I'm asking, has the digital revolution actually harmed humanity more than it has helped? And I found this article absolutely fascinating. This is coming from Joseph Bernstein of BuzzFeed, and quite frankly, I get, on occasion, people that message me that basically say, oh, Nick, you're an idiot, you're wrong, here's why. I think, if anything, this might be one of those videos that sparks more debate than anything else, but I want you to basically consider these 5 questions and answer honestly to yourself as I ask these questions if this really applies to you. Now, be honest. Now, question number 1. What you think doesn't count very much anymore. That's the first question. The second question is, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. The third question is, most people with power try to take advantage of people like myself. The fourth question is, the people running the country don't really care what happens to you. And the final question is, you're left out of things going on around you. Now, if you answered yes to most of these questions, you're actually not alone. In 2018, the last results for these specific set of questions were that 69% of Americans, because this was focused on America, but we could probably spread this out throughout the world, but 69% of Americans actually felt the same way. Now, this comes from Harris Poll's Alienation Index and has continued to creep up year after year since its inception in 1966, when the results were actually 29%, meaning less than 1/3 of Americans felt like answering yes to all of those questions. Now, this actually comes, this article with BuzzFeed by Joseph Bernstein has an excellent analysis in his article, and the article is called Alienated, Alone, and Angry: What the Digital Revolution Really Did to Us, and the subheading is, we were promised community, civics, and convenience. Instead, we found ourselves dislocated, distrustful, and disengaged. Now, he mentions multiple factors in this article, and I will let you decide if these are factors. These are his words, and I quote these as factors outside of what I'm going to talk about. And I quote, "A financial crisis that awakened Americans to the widening gaps between rich and poor, an opioid epidemic, caused by corporate greed, entrenched racism and sexism, bitterly divided partisan politics, and of course technological change, the prism through which Americans view all of these things, and the vector that brings Americans' feelings about all of these things together into the same few spaces." Now, again, that is Joseph Bernstein's analysis. I'll let you decide on that. But what I want to focus on today is technology. And if we are looking at how technology has impacted our lives since basically the dawn of the digital revolution in the 1990s, the late 1990s, around 1997, 98, we have progressed, quote unquote, in various ways along the internet. The first one being social media. Now, if we are looking at social media, and I like to say, for example, that Twitter is where civility goes to die, I think that's true across a lot of different social media platforms out there. And by virtue of that, we have this comfort in anonymity that allows us to, at least some of us, to attack others in very harsh ways. I literally did a video a few days ago about cyberbullying, where somebody had sent Kurt Eichenwald, a reporter at the New York Times, basically a flashing GIF that was designed to basically trigger off his epilepsy and cause him a seizure, which exactly that's what it did. He has obviously filed assault charges, and that's going through the court system. I would urge you to watch that video, but that really underscores the point of where civility goes to die. We wouldn't think about doing that prior to social media, and as much as we, let's say, disagreed or hated somebody, that was just really not in the news in the same frequency as it was now. The next thing in terms of technology that make us feel alienated, alone, or angry would be search filters. Now, think about this. As you use Google, for example, most of us end up in a search filter or a search bubble where Google starts to hone those search results towards us And by virtue of that, I feel like this, or rather think, I think that this enables partisanship like the world has never seen before, but it then enables people to find others that are like-minded, which in and of itself isn't necessarily bad, but it also allows people to exclude other points of views, which is a detriment to both discourse and understanding about basically other people that would disagree with you. So for example, and I don't care what spectrum you're on, if you're very right or very left or somewhere in the middle or anything, what ends up happening is, let's say you're very right or very left, as you start reading news that, let's say, aligns with your perspective, Google and other search providers continue to give you that content. So in other words, if you're very much MSNBC, you're almost never getting the perspective of Fox News. And if you're very much Fox News, you're never getting the perspective of MSNBC and everything in between. Now, all of this basically has created the backdrop for an increased level of threats and harshness. I've seen this myself. I have worked with some very high-profile individuals over the years in terms of personal cybersecurity, where I have literally seen, just anecdotally, an increase of threats when people are submitting, to these individuals' websites. Basically, I hate you. You ruin the planet or the country or the economy or, whatever it is. I want to kill you, murder you, all these kinds of things. I've seen quite a bit, and by virtue of that, I've worked with both local and federal law enforcement here in the United States, just in response to some of these threats, unlike I've never seen before in my career, which, is well over 20 years at this point. Now, think about this. And when we are thinking about this, think about the changing attitudes about social issues, and it's easy to see why people feel alienated, alone, or very angry as a result. I mean, imagine being there, having, let's say, one set of views, and you are getting bombarded by another set that disagrees with it, and you're not willing to take the time to, let's say, learn that balance or read that because you're set in your ways. I think a lot of people are. Some people aren't either way. And again, I am not disparaging anybody here. I don't care what your belief system is. This is not political. It simply goes to state that as we start to build these filter bubbles, these search bubbles, and then start exposing ourselves to social media and different opinions, it's kind of like that Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner with your family gets blown out of proportion because now you're sitting online literally arguing with people you don't know, and here come the threats and the anger and everything else. I've literally posted innocuous things online, just to get an honest response, and it inevitably devolves into some kind of partisan bickering. I find that to be very interesting, very fascinating, and I think our goal here as, humanity, as a society, is to cut through that partisanship, is to really understand one another and not to vilify, let's say, people that disagree with us. And so I'm sure this is going to be, one of my more controversial videos. I'm sure there are going to be people out there that say, "Oh, Nick, you idiot, blah, 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 you're forest from the trees, I've been called everything from a communist to a fascist, depending on, the website. So, so I figure I'm probably doing something right with these videos, but we really need to sit back and take a look at this, because if you are answering these questions as yes, then maybe you're a bit more alienated than you realize, and quite frankly, that's maybe something that needs to be addressed. Or maybe you're completely right. I'm not disparaging either way, but we are definitely seeing more of a divide, and it seems to be propelled and, quite frankly, very exacerbated by virtue of the online platforms we have right now. So I think it's something to consider. And then the real question that I have through all of this is, how do we actually combat this? What does this look like in terms of through this? What does social media 2.0, if we're looking at the Facebooks, Twitters, and Instagrams of the world thinking, oh my God, these are giving everybody anger and depression. How do we combat this? How do we fix this? How do we ensure that everybody has their voice in whatever they believe, but also applies a certain amount of civility to it? I think it's something that we really need to discuss. And as we come into a holiday season where most people are relaxed and all of that, I guarantee you there's a good chunk of people out there that are kind of dreading, going to Christmas dinner saying, oh God, my cousin or my uncle or my aunt or whoever, is just diametrically opposed to whatever I believe, think, feel. And quite frankly, I just don't want to hear about it. So, Where's the alcohol, at dinner? I mean, it's these kinds of things we really need to discuss. So I've probably gone on for too long than what is my normal video, but I think it's something that is really important and we really need to address. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Good, bad, or ugly, feel free to tell me I'm an idiot. I pretty much get it daily by virtue of posting these daily, but I think it's an important discussion. And if we are looking at this openly and objectively, if 69%, almost 2/3, well, actually more than 2/3 of this country are saying that they feel alienated and angry, we can't ignore that. That's only going to get worse. And when we are looking at partisan divides, it's only going to continue to divide us more as we continue to dig in, find like-minded people, and exclude anybody in our lives that might have an opposing opinion that may be, quite frankly, contradictory and correct compared to what we are believing. If we're not keeping that open mind, here we are. And so by all means, please, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And so that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at Nick AESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.